You spoke to Jonathan Gannon. Cardinals blow a 20-point lead at halftime. What did the head coach have to say?
Took the blame for it. Basically said it was on the coaches as far as their inability to hold on and win this thing that, as you said, 20-0 at halftime, 28-7 at the end of the third quarter, or at least with 4 minutes left in the third quarter, and took the brunt of the blame for the collapse. But when you look at it, you look at the numbers, you look at how the second half transpired, this was a defensive collapse that unfolded before all eyes here at State Farm Stadium. The offense played well enough to win. You give up 5 drives, 5 scores, including 4 touchdowns to the New York Giants. It's just not winning football. It was not what we expected to see. One, the offense come out and play as well as it did, and then the defense to lay an egg like it did in the second half was it was an absolute soul-crushing loss for the Arizona Cardinals. I don't care what the expectations for this team were going into this season.
No, I agree. It was the way it transpired in the second half. Just it crushes your soul as a Cardinals fan. It's just one of those things where, as a fan, you don't really. It's hard for you to want to root. It's hard for you to want to show up for games because you don't want to continuously see second half collapses. But at this point, it's a tough.
You talked to him, Bo, about Budda Baker. Any status update on the All-Pro safety that his injury basically came out of nowhere?
Yeah, it happened. Confirmed it happened in Friday's practice because I saw him out there during the media portion. Looked fine. Must have happened during maybe 11-on-11 once the media was escorted out of the practice facility. But they're still evaluating it. Just wasn't healthy enough to go today. But if you look across the league, these are hamstring issues are ones that can be they can be kind of tough, right? They can nag for a couple of weeks. And I know that a guy like Budda Baker is superhuman. When you see that he's got kind of he came back from a high ankle sprain, kind of like returning from the dead last year. Hamstring is one of those. BG, I don't know if you've ever sustained one, but it looks like it's one of those that it's no matter how superhuman you might be, it can take down most mortal men.
If you followed any part of my career in Arizona, I was out with a hamstring at least once a year. But it's one of those injuries that once it happens once, it's not going away. It will always be there. It just determines on how you can manage it and making sure you take care of it and do all the pre-work you can do to make sure you can keep it at bay. But the hamstring injury, it's a nagging one. It's one that you wouldn't think outside if you've never done it that it should be something that can hinder you. But being a guy, especially a defensive back, a receiver, skill position player, you're running the entire game.
Yeah.
And that hamstring is a very important component to how you run. So, I mean, at this point, I know fans don't want to hear Budda Baker could be out multiple weeks, but if you want to see him at full force this season, you've got to just sit back and let it take its course and let him come back healed instead of having him try to play through it.
It's like the situation with their franchise quarterback, Kyler Murray. It's like you just got to wait it out and see when he's going to come back. And speaking of quarterback, Bo Brock, I think you and I and BG are all on the same page. Josh Dobbs did more than enough today to get this team a dub. 48 or 28 points from this offense, no turnovers. I know a lot of it came in the first half. Evaluation of Josh Dobbs and maybe what JG had to say about his QB1 currently.
Yeah, he said that he loved what he saw from the offense, right? I mean, and penned most of the downfall on the defense. You're not going to get off the field when they couldn't get off the field, couldn't get off on third down, and you gave up 31 points in the second half on 5 drives they were 5 for 5. So I think as far as what he said about the offense and Dobbs, I think we all saw it, that this offense can operate in the interim and he can be the bridge to Kyler Murray. You saw what they saw back in March, or what they identified as a guy that could be the bridge to Kyler Murray, the mobility, the arm strength. It seemed like he had every throw in his bag today. Maybe one he left too long for Zach Ertz to open the game, but immediately kind of made up for it and was, on the run, making throws, hitting Rondell Moore for a big third down completion, dropping in the bucket to a guy like Michael Wilson, who had 2 big third down conversions. You saw enough from the offense. Sure, things went stagnant in the fourth quarter, and that was unfortunate. And, he can say, Dobbs said that they didn't play tight or they didn't feel the pressure, but I mean, it certainly seemed that way. But look, I mean, it's the tale of 2 different games now. I mean, after game 1, where they're shut out of the end zone offensively and the defense played so well, you're like, can they score a touchdown? Can they be an offense that can go down and get points? And now after going 5 for 5 in the second half, the defense, like, can they get off the field? Did they already catch up to Nick Rollis and this crew? They missed Buda Baker, no doubt about it. They are absolutely just gutted up front. Carlos Watkins sustained a biceps injury today on top of LJ Collier, on top of Lecky Fotu, where they just worn down too much up front. And you got Dallas, who has a potent offense coming in. It's like, are they going to be able to get off the field next week? I think that's a valid question. So they're going to have to go back to the drawing board, make some adjustments now on the defensive side of the football. The biggest issue is like, all right, the offense cost you the game in week 1. Now the defense costs you the game in week 2. Where is it going to be in week 3?
Let's get to some of these super chats. We've got Bo Brock live from State Farm Stadium. Little Dreezy, $1.99. I love to learn. I do, bro. I have no hope next week. And we talked about it, Bo Brock. Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers come to town. And this is where the schedule gets that much more difficult for a team that had very little margin for error. I mean, how do you imagine this team gets up now for the two best teams, in my opinion, in the NFC coming to State Farm Stadium?
Yeah, I mean, they're just gonna the coaching staff is gonna have to make those adjustments to the week. Now we saw Petzing and his crew do that from week 1 to week 2, and now it's Rollis's turn with his crew, his unit, to go from week 2 to week 3. And then what is it going to be? Special teams next week? I don't know. I mean,
let's hope not.
You did have a miss from Prater early in the game, but look, that's from 54 yards. That was unfortunate. That would have been nice to get points there. But look, the offense, I mean, I'll maintain that. I think that the offense played well enough. But look, you've got to get this defense back on track, and it doesn't get easy with CeeDee Lamb, with Tony Pollard and Dak Prescott coming to town. It's not. But you're going to have to find a way to get off the field. They were able to do it against Washington week 1. They were able to do it and dominate in the first half, and that seems like forever ago today. But 2 of the 4 quarters they played very well, and then it just completely the wheels fell off. So yeah, they're going to have to look at what they did very well, and then they're going to have to look at where they fell short here in the second half against Daniel Jones. And it makes me ill to say that Daniel Jones played and just absolutely destroyed the Arizona Cardinals. BG, Johnny, it felt like they just simply just moved him around. He was just getting out of the pocket and just had anything he wanted down the field. And it started with that first play from scrimmage to open up the second half, 50-plus yards to the kid out of Tennessee, Jalen Hyatt, and they were just rolling from there.
No, agreed. And you can definitely tell who the halftime speech impacted on what side of what team was impacted the most by it. I think Daniel Jones came out the second half and just played his game. The offensive coordinator put him in great positions to make plays. He called the right plays at the right times, and they executed this half. And the Cardinals defense just didn't have an answer in the second half. I mean, they couldn't stop the pass. They couldn't stop the run. They were just moving the ball. If there was nobody open downfield, Daniel Jones was running for 10, 15 yards at a time. So
and that's with 2 Giants offensive linemen being out. We saw a guard leave the game. Of course, no Andrew Thomas. More super chats because you guys are crushing it. Thank you so much again. This is from Thomas, $5, longtime season ticket holder. And this was an absolute disgrace. Brutal. Visiting fans were brutal. Bo, kind of a theme of the show has been you got to earn the fan base's, let's just call it, support as it relates to ticket sales. Of course, much has been made with the Giants taking up about half of the stadium today, with 2 big fan bases in San Fran and Cowboys on the horizon. It could, I think San Francisco was on the road. So specifically Dallas next week could get,
it's going to be insufferable.
Yeah. For State Farm Stadium and Cardinal fans that are there.
Yeah. There was a ton of blue in there. And when the Giants were, continuing their comeback, and once they kind of finished it, there was a ton of cheering going on. Every big play was welcomed by, just overwhelming cheer for the away team, which is, it's deflating. But you're right. You absolutely have to earn that back. You have to earn that trust. We talked about it a lot this week. We're closing in on 2 home wins or 1 home win in 24 months. That's not enough. And, you can see why when people, they spend their hard-earned money on these season tickets, they want to be able to see the home team compete. Now, I mean, they saw them compete, but they saw a collapse of historic fashion today. And that's that's not something you want to spend your Sunday doing.